Ava Collins thought the worst days of her life were finally behind her. 1 year after discovering she was a true heir to the powerful Brooks global tech empire, everything seemed perfect. Her rehabilitation centers were growing across multiple cities. Women she once helped were now rebuilding their lives. Her younger brother, Ethan Collins, was thriving in university in Nigeria while helping manage her foundation programs. And even her relationship with Nathaniel Brooks was slowly healing. For the first time in years, Ava felt safe. But she was wrong. During a live televised shareholder event at Brooks Global headquarters, a sudden technical disaster sent the entire building into chaos. Lights crashed, people screamed, security rushed everywhere. And in the middle of the confusion, someone leaned close to Ava and whispered, "You should have disappeared 28 years ago." Ava froze. 28 years ago? What happened 28 years ago? And why did someone want her gone? What Ava discovered next would destroy the Brooks family forever. Before we continue, this is part 2 of Ava's Made to Empire story. Subscribe to AfroK Cinema for more emotional stories like this. Like this video, comment your thoughts, and share with someone who loves powerful drama stories. Now let's continue. Ava couldn't stop shaking. Even after security cleared the building, even after reporters were pushed outside, even after Nathaniel Brooks personally escorted her into his private office, that whisper kept replaying in her head. You should have disappeared 28 years ago. What happened 28 years ago? Ava asked. Nathaniel looked confused. I don't know, but someone clearly does. And for the first time in months, Ava saw fear in Nathaniel's eyes. That terrified her even more, because if Nathaniel didn't know what was happening, then this was bigger than both of them. But things got worse. That same night, Evelyn Brooks requested an emergency family meeting. Everyone was ordered to attend. No excuses. When Ava arrived at the Brooks mansion, the atmosphere felt strange. The house was too quiet. Staff members avoided eye contact. And several family members stared at Ava like she didn't belong there. Then she saw new faces. And instantly new trouble had arrived. First was Richard Brooks, Evelyn's younger son. Cold, calculated, and visibly angry. He looked at Ava like she had stolen something from him. Then there was Sophia Brooks, Nathaniel's cousin, beautiful, elegant, and smiling in a way that made Ava uncomfortable. The family lawyer sat beside them quietly, watching everyone, waiting. Then Evelyn Brooks entered the room, and everyone stood up, but Ava immediately noticed something was wrong. Evelyn looked weaker, much weaker. Her movements were slower. Her breathing was heavier, but her eyes, still powerful, still commanding. She sat down slowly, then looked directly at Ava. My dear. Ava's chest tightened. Something felt wrong, very wrong. Evelyn took a deep breath. There's something all of you need to hear. The room became silent. The lawyer opened a folder, and that's when everything exploded. Months ago, Evelyn said softly, I updated my will. Richard immediately leaned forward. Nathaniel looked confused. Sophia stopped smiling. Ava felt her heartbeat rising. Then Evelyn dropped the bomb. My primary inheritance, she paused, will go to Ava Collins. Silence. Complete silence. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Then chaos erupted. What? Richard shouted. That's impossible. She's an outsider. Sophia screamed. This is fraud. Another relative yelled. Ava couldn't even speak. What are you talking about? She whispered. Evelyn looked at her lovingly. I'm talking about your future. The lawyer continued reading. Ava was being left. Massive personal inheritance. Major controlling shares in Brooks Global. Private estates. Family trust assets. Exclusive voting rights on major company decisions. Ava nearly collapsed. This has to be a mistake. It isn't, Evelyn said. Richard slammed his hand on the table. She manipulated you. Sophia laughed bitterly. A former maid becomes a billionaire overnight. Nathaniel stood up instantly. That's enough. But Richard wasn't done. You expect us to hand everything to someone who wasn't even raised in this family? Ava stood up emotionally. I never asked for this. But Richard moved closer. You should reject it. The room went silent again. Ava stared at him. What? If you care about this family, walk away. Ava looked at Evelyn. Tears filled her eyes. Why me? Evelyn's face softened. Because you know what suffering feels like. Everyone became quiet. Evelyn continued. The rest of this family was born into privilege. But you, she pointed at Ava, you understand survival. Ava broke down crying. Evelyn reached for her hand. This empire needs someone with a heart. Richard stormed out. Sophia followed. But before leaving, Sophia whispered to Ava, you have no idea what you just stepped into. Ava felt chills run through her body. Nathaniel walked her outside later that night. Neither of them spoke for a while. Then Ava whispered, I don't want this. Nathaniel looked at her. That's exactly why you deserve it. Ava looked up at him emotionally. What if I lose myself? Nathaniel smiled sadly. Then I'll remind you who you are. Ava's heart skipped. For a moment, everything felt calm again. But peace never lasted long in the Brooks family. Because across town, Richard sat in a dark office with a family lawyer. Furious. She cannot take what belongs to me. The lawyer remained calm. There may be another way. Richard looked up. What way? The lawyer slid an old file across the table. Richard opened it and froze. Inside was a secret document connected to Ava's birth, and one hidden truth that could destroy everything. Richard whispered, How is this possible? The lawyer looked nervous. She can never find out. And somewhere far away in Nigeria, Ava Collins received a strange anonymous message. Be careful who you trust. And that was the moment Ava's real nightmare began. Ava Collins thought surviving the Brooks family meeting was the hardest thing she would face. She was wrong. The next morning, her name was everywhere, and not in a good way. Every major blog, every entertainment page, every gossip channel, even business platforms connected to Brooks Global were talking about her. And the headlines were brutal. Former maid manipulates billionaire family. How Ava Collins took over the Brooks empire. Is the new heiress a fraud? Nathaniel Brooks' secret relationship exposed? Ava stared at her phone in disbelief. What is this? Her assistant rushed into her office at the rehabilitation center. It's getting worse. Ava looked confused. What do you mean worse? The assistant handed her a tablet. Social media comments flooded the screen. She planned this. She used sympathy. She doesn't deserve that money. She trapped Nathaniel Brooks. She's fake. Ava's hand started shaking. This wasn't just gossip. This was a targeted attack. And then things got worse. One of Ava's biggest foundation sponsors withdrew support. Then another. Women at her rehabilitation center began panicking. Some feared the center would shut down. Others worried their programs would end. Ava spent the entire day calming people down, promising everything would be okay. But privately, she was falling apart. That night, she sat alone in her office, crying silently, looking at old photos of herself before wealth, before fame, before the Brooks family. Life was harder then, but simpler. Then someone knocked on the door. It was Nathaniel Brooks. Ava quickly wiped her tears. What are you doing here? Nathaniel walked in holding takeout food. You forgot to eat. Ava laughed through tears. This is your solution? Food fixes many things. That made Ava smile for the first time all day. But the smile disappeared quickly. I'm losing everything. Nathaniel sat beside her. No. Yes. She stood up emotionally. My reputation is ruined. My foundation is collapsing. People think I'm a liar. Nathaniel remained calm. Do you trust me? Ava looked at him. Yes. Then let me help. The next morning, Nathaniel shocked the entire country. He held a live press conference at Brooks Global headquarters and publicly defended Ava. She did not manipulate my family. She earned every opportunity she has received. And anyone attacking her is attacking the truth. Reporters exploded with questions. But one reporter asked something strange. Do you know who leaked the inheritance story? Nathaniel froze. That question hit differently, because he didn't know. And that meant someone close to the family was responsible. Someone dangerous. Someone patient. Someone strategic. That same night, Ava received a call from Ava Collins. His voice sounded nervous. "Ava, what's wrong? I think someone's been watching me." Ava sat upright instantly. "What?" "I've seen the same black car near campus 3 times this week." Her heart dropped. "Have you told security?" "I thought I was imagining it." Ava stood up. "You're coming home." But Ethan hesitated. "There's something else." Ava froze. "What?" "That anonymous message I got. It mentioned our parents." Ava's breathing stopped. "What exactly did it say?" Ethan went silent, then quietly said, "Some truths were buried for a reason." Ava couldn't sleep that night, because deep down, she knew this wasn't about inheritance anymore. This was personal, and someone was slowly destroying everything she loved. But she had no idea how far they were willing to go. A week later, Ava decided to visit one of her rehabilitation centers outside the city. She needed space. She needed clarity. And most importantly, she needed to feel useful again. Helping others always reminded her who she was. Ava Collins had agreed to return home soon. That gave her temporary peace. And Nathaniel Brooks insisted on increasing her security team. At first, Ava hated it. But now, she understood why. Because something felt wrong. Very wrong. That morning felt normal. Too normal. Ava greeted staff members. Met women in recovery programs. Spent time with children in educational programs. Everything felt peaceful. Then her driver noticed something unusual. "Ma'am." Ava looked up. "Yes." "There seems to be an issue with the vehicle." Ava frowned. "What kind of issue?" "I'm not sure, but I don't think you should ride in it." Before Ava could respond, another staff member rushed toward them. "There's smoke coming from the parking area." Everyone ran outside, and chaos exploded. One of the vehicles suddenly malfunctioned. Security quickly evacuated everyone nearby. Thankfully, no one was seriously harmed. But Ava stood frozen. That vehicle was assigned to her. If her driver hadn't noticed something earlier, things could have gone very differently. Her entire body shook. Nathaniel arrived within minutes. His face was full of fear. "Ava." He pulled her into a tight hug. For a moment, she forgot how angry she'd been with him in the past. She simply held on to him. "I'm okay." Nathaniel pulled back. This wasn't an accident. Ava looked terrified. "What do you mean?" "I hired private investigators after the shareholder incident, and they found evidence someone has been targeting you." Ava's face turned pale. "Who?" Nathaniel looked frustrated. "We don't know yet. But there's more." He handed her a file. Ava opened it, and her entire world stopped. Inside were records tied to her childhood, missing paperwork, conflicting adoption documents, hospital records that didn't match. She looked at Nathaniel in disbelief. "What is this?" Nathaniel's voice became softer. "I think someone rewrote your history." Ava stepped backward. "No, there's more." He pulled out another file. This one contained information about her parents, and what she read next made her knees weak. The accident that supposedly changed her life had major inconsistencies. Witness statements changed. Records disappeared. Important files vanished. Ava began crying. "No." Nathaniel grabbed her shoulders. "Ava, my parents." Her voice cracked. "What if everything I believed was a lie?" Nathaniel looked heartbroken. "That's what we need to find out." At that exact moment, Evelyn Brooks collapsed during a private family event. The family rushed her to medical care, and doctors delivered devastating news. Her health was declining rapidly. Time was running out. When Ava visited her later, Evelyn grabbed her hand tightly. Her voice was weak. "You need to be strong." Ava cried. "Please don't say that." Evelyn looked deeply into her eyes. "They're hiding something." Ava froze. "Who?" Evelyn tried to speak again, but suddenly stopped. She looked terrified. At the hospital door, Richard Brooks was standing there, watching them, smiling. And Ava immediately knew her worst enemy might be closer than she ever imagined. And what she discovers next will expose a secret buried for decades. Ava Collins couldn't stop thinking about Evelyn Brooks' final words. They're hiding something. Those words followed her everywhere, while eating, while trying to sleep, even during board meetings at Brooks Global. And the worst part? Richard Brooks kept pretending nothing was wrong. He attended meetings, smiled at investors, acted like a loving family member. But every time Ava looked into his eyes, she felt something dark behind that smile, and she couldn't ignore it anymore. So she made a decision. She would uncover the truth herself. But she didn't tell Nathaniel Brooks. Not yet, because if she was wrong, she didn't want to drag him deeper into another nightmare. Ava secretly hired an investigative journalist who specialized in hidden family records. 3 days later, they met in a quiet cafe far from the city. The journalist placed a thick folder on the table and looked nervous. You need to prepare yourself. Ava's heart started racing. For what? The journalist exhaled slowly. Your childhood records were altered. Ava froze. What? There are legal gaps in your adoption records. Your foster transfer documents were signed by people who didn't exist. Ava stared in disbelief. That's impossible. It gets worse. The journalist opened another file. Your parents' so-called accident report was never officially completed. Witness statements vanished. Transportation records disappeared. Insurance files were mysteriously closed. Ava's hands began shaking. No. The journalist leaned closer. Someone erased your family. Ava felt like she couldn't breathe. Then she saw a familiar signature. Her entire body froze. The paperwork had ties to a business account connected to Richard Brooks. No. Tears rolled down her face. No. The journalist spoke softly. There's more. Ava looked up. More. The journalist nodded. Your parents discovered financial misconduct inside Brooks Global decades ago. They planned to expose it. Ava stared in horror, and then they disappeared. Silence. Complete silence. Ava's entire life suddenly made sense. Her years in foster care, her painful childhood, her endless suffering. Someone created it all, and that someone may have been sitting at family dinners pretending to care. That night, Ava confronted Nathaniel Brooks, and he was devastated. You should have told me. I needed proof. Nathaniel looked heartbroken. My own family? Ava nodded through tears. I think Richard stole my entire life. Nathaniel punched a wall, then stopped himself, breathing heavily. This ends now. But Ava shook her head. No. Nathaniel looked confused. What? We need more proof. Because if we move too early, Richard will erase everything again. Nathaniel reluctantly agreed. But while Ava was trying to expose the truth, Richard was already planning his next move. And this time, he wasn't targeting Ava. He was targeting someone she loved, far away in Nigeria. Ethan Collins disappeared during a humanitarian outreach trip for Ava's Rehabilitation Foundation. His phone stopped working. His team couldn't find him. And Ava received a chilling message. Choose wisely. Ava collapsed to the floor, and her nightmare got even worse. Ava completely panicked. Ethan Collins was gone. The only person left from her old life, the boy she practically raised. The one person who loved her before money, before power, before Brooks Global. And now, he was missing. Ava couldn't think, couldn't breathe, couldn't function. But then another disaster hit. Nathaniel Brooks rushed into her office with devastating news. We have another problem. Ava looked emotionally exhausted. What now? Nathaniel dropped documents on her desk. The company's finances were collapsing. Billions were missing. Hidden transactions, fake partnerships, secret offshore accounts. Ava stared at him. How? Nathaniel looked destroyed. My chief financial officer. Ava froze. What? He's been secretly helping Richard. Everything suddenly connected. Richard wasn't just trying to remove Ava. He was trying to destroy everyone standing in his way. And then things got even worse. Government investigators launched an inquiry into Brooks Global, And somehow, Nathaniel's name was attached to several suspicious documents. He was being blamed. Public headlines exploded again. Nathaniel Brooks under financial investigation. Brooks' empire near collapse. New heiress family scandal deepens. Nathaniel looked broken. I didn't do this. Ava looked at him quietly. For a moment, she remembered all the times he failed her in part one, all the moments he stayed silent, all the pain he caused. And now, he needed her. Life felt ironic. Nathaniel lowered his head. If you walk away now, I'll understand. Ava stared at him, then softly said, I know what betrayal feels like. Nathaniel slowly looked up. And I won't let you face this alone. Nathaniel nearly broke down. You still believe me? Ava nodded. Yes. That moment changed everything between them. Together, they launched a secret internal investigation. And what they found shocked them. Richard had been preparing this takeover for years. Hidden shell companies, fake board members, corrupt legal advisors. Everything led back to him. But before they could expose him, Ava got a video message. It was Ava Collins. He looked tired but unharmed, and he said something that terrified Ava. Ava, don't give them what they want. The screen went black. Then Richard appeared, smiling. You want your brother back? Ava's face filled with rage. What do you want? Richard leaned forward calmly. Your company shares. Nathaniel immediately shouted, No. But Ava looked at the screen quietly and whispered something that shocked everyone. Fine. Nathaniel turned toward her. What? Ava stared at the screen. I'll do it. Richard smiled. Smart girl. The call ended. Nathaniel was furious. You can't be serious. Ava slowly turned toward him, and for the first time, she smiled. A dangerous smile. Oh, I'm very serious. Nathaniel looked confused. Ava leaned closer. But Richard has no idea. I'm setting him up. And what happens next will destroy the Brooks empire forever. Nathaniel Brooks stared at Ava Collins like he no longer recognized her. And honestly, that was exactly what Ava wanted. For years, people underestimated her. They saw a maid, a victim, an outsider, a girl with no power. And every single time, they were wrong. Now it was her turn, and Richard Brooks had no idea what was coming. The next morning, every major media platform announced an emergency shareholder meeting at Brooks Global. Investors panicked. Employees feared collapse. News anchors predicted the end of the company. And then Ava disappeared. For 3 whole months. No interviews. No public appearances. No board meetings. Nothing. Social media exploded. She ran away. She couldn't handle power. She was never qualified. Richard won. Even Sophia Brooks celebrated publicly. But they had no idea. Ava was quietly building her revenge. She traveled across multiple countries, met private investors, recovered hidden company records, tracked missing financial documents, and secretly purchased additional voting shares through legal partners. She was becoming unstoppable. Then one morning, the entire city froze because Ava returned, and she looked completely different. Quiet luxury, elegant, controlled, powerful, no fear in her eyes, no uncertainty in her voice. She walked into Brooks' global headquarters like she already owned it, because secretly, she almost did, and the boardroom exploded. Richard laughed. You came back just to lose? Ava smiled calmly. No. She dropped several files on the table, and everything changed. Fake contracts, hidden transfers, secret partnerships, manipulated legal documents, proof of financial sabotage, proof of corporate fraud, proof connecting everything back to Richard. The entire room went silent. Then Ava revealed one final document, her original family records, the records Richard tried to erase. And suddenly, everyone understood. This was never just about money. This was about a stolen life. Sophia Brooks panicked immediately and turned on Richard. You said none of this existed. Richard shouted back, You idiot! Investors began demanding answers. Board members called emergency legal teams. and Richard finally snapped. He rushed out of the building. But that wasn't the end, because Ava received a message, a location, and one sentence. Come alone if you want Ethan. Nathaniel Brooks immediately said no. It's dangerous. But Ava looked at him calmly. I'm ending this. She arrived at an abandoned storage facility and found Ethan Collins safe but frightened. He ran into her arms. I knew you'd come. Ava broke down crying. I'm so sorry. Then Richard appeared, completely unstable. You ruined everything. Ava stood tall. No, you ruined yourself. Richard laughed bitterly. You were supposed to disappear years ago. And then he accidentally revealed everything. How he manipulated family records. How he removed evidence. How he stole Ava's future. And while he was speaking, he didn't realize authorities were already listening. Because Ava had planned everything. Nathaniel had secretly helped record the entire conversation. And within minutes, officials arrived. Richard was finally taken away. Sophia Brooks was also exposed. The corrupt family lawyer lost everything. The entire conspiracy collapsed overnight. And finally, silence. Real peace. Months later, Evelyn Brooks passed away peacefully. Before her final breath, she held Ava's hand and whispered, "Stop surviving, start ruling." Ava cried harder than she ever had before, but she honored that promise. 1 year later, Ava officially became CEO of Brooks Global. Her tech empire expanded globally. Her rehabilitation centers opened in multiple countries. Thousands of women rebuilt their lives because of her. Ethan Collins now helped lead her humanitarian programs. And for the first time, Ava felt complete. One quiet afternoon, Ava visited her parents' graves. She placed flowers down gently and whispered, I finally found my way back to you. Then she heard footsteps. She turned and saw Nathaniel Brooks standing there, holding flowers, looking nervous. Ava smiled softly. What are you doing here? Nathaniel laughed awkwardly. I face billion-dollar investors. But somehow, I'm terrified right now. Ava laughed, and he smiled. Then he looked at her seriously. I love you. Silence. I've loved you for a long time. Ava looked emotional. Nathaniel continued, but I know I hurt you, and I know healing takes time. He pulled out a small box, then paused, and slowly closed it again. I'm not asking for forever today. I'm asking for a chance someday. Ava stared at him, tears filling her eyes. Then she softly whispered, I need time. Nathaniel nodded. I'll wait. He kissed her forehead gently and walked away. Ava smiled through tears, then looked at the sky and whispered the words that defined her entire journey. They tried to erase me. Now the whole world knows my name. Yendi, if you enjoyed part 2, subscribe to AfroK Cinema. Like, comment, and share. And tell us, what would you have done if you were Ava?